Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Baruch atah asher anat melecha ha'olam asher kedishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu litativ latzitzit. Good morning, baby love. I hope you're enjoying your breakfast. Watching this makes you happy, but I've not done anything yet. I guess it's not really about me doing anything, is it? It's about being here together. What is my biggest insecurity? You know, I just made a film about it. You can go look in the archives. Isn't that crazy? Human connection is a powerful thing. It's very necessary. Very necessary. Oh. How do we get the candle to be in the frame? Well, it's probably good enough. Alright, a little messy today. Today's a little messy. My voice is so soft. Soft like too quiet, or soft like nice? You love my goats. I love my goats too. I have to move them today. It's raining out. It's really wet. So it's gonna be kind of a rough day to move the goats, but we'll be all right. We'll be all right. My hair is perfect. I don't believe you. There must be some imperfection somewhere. So maybe like right here, this one. It's pouring here too. Are you on the East Coast? Greetings from Australia. Should we say some prayers together? Should we focus on the same things for a little while? I think we should. I've got lots of animals. I've got a dying butterfly. My butterfly's gonna die probably tomorrow or today. And cats, and chickens, geese. Rained yesterday in Alabama. Must be moving up the coast. Okay. We'll do a little bit of a vocal warm-up. And then we'll say some words together. And hopefully it will make everyone's day a little bit better. Yeah? Should we say some words? Let's say some words. How many of you have heard these words before? If you've heard them before, do let me know in the comments. You know, the best way to combat negativity in the comments is simply to fill the comment section with your own appreciations and communication with the people that are actually here and present together. Talk amongst each other. It'll help. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. ואהבת את ענת אלוהיך ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ולכתך בדרך, ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. Frontier Farmhouse. You know, my housemates love your channel. They love your geese so much. I came home from work one day and they were like, listen, you need to watch this human's geese. And then we spent like an hour looking at your geese on TikTok. So good on you. Good on you. You're on a kick-ass farm. Shema Yisrael Yahweh Eloheinu Asher Echad. Listen, Israel. All is one, like a serpent that eats its tail. Do I still have the butterfly? Yes, I do. He's going to die today. He's over there. I guess we can bring him out, but... Oh, no. Ugh. That's it. Oh, now, hold on. Okay. He's going to die today. He can't stand anymore. Okay. Hey, bud. Hey there. Yeah, I can't move him. That's it. He's going to die. I'm going to make one more film about him. You already knew that, though. You can't make 2 films about a dying butterfly without making a third to conclude. Yeah, he's going to die today. And that'll be that. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. So, we're saying prayers because the prayers say me, right? And you shall love Yahweh Eloheinu with all your heart and all your might and all your strength. And these words that I am repeating to you today, that I've repeated to you so many times before, teach them to your children, teach them to your TikTok audience, send them to the aether so that maybe they'll have some tiny impact on the other living humans in your world. And recite them when you wake up, and when you go to bed, and when you are out, and when you are at home. And you shall bind them as a symbol on your hand, and let them serve as a sign between your eyes. You shall inscribe them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. Repeat me. The words say, repeat me. So we repeat them, and in so doing, create meaning for ourselves. You let me know what they mean. Most of you don't actually care. Most of you are just here for about 25 seconds, see a little image, and then you move on. Just fine. But some of you do care. And I'm here for those humans. You know that. V'chaya, ki v'achayo Elohecha el ha'aretz asher nisbar levotecha, לאברהם לישכח וליעקב. לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית, ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר לא מילאת, וברות עצובים אשר לא עשת בה, כרבים וזיתים אשר לא נתת, והלכת ושבת. הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר תשכחה, מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. When Yahweh Eloheinu brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to assign to you great and flourishing cities that you did not build, houses full of all good things that you did not fill, hewn cisterns that you did not hew, vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and you eat your fill. Take heed that you do not forget Yahweh, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. This is Hebrew, Navy nice. Hebrew language, and it's as close as you'll get in the Torah to a land acknowledgement. Right? The words, they come immediately after the V'ahavta in the book of Deuteronomy, and they say, hey, remember that the land that you occupy was not always yours. I live in Oneida land. This part of New York used to be Oneida land. Well, whose land do you live on? You let me know. You let me know. I came upon a wedding that old families had contrived, with Bethlehem the bridegroom and Babylon the bride. Oh, great Babylon was trembling, and she stood there naked with me. And Bethlehem inflamed us both, like the shy one at some orgy. And when we fell together, all our flesh was like a veil that we had to draw aside to see the serpent eat its tail. Oh. Some women wait for Jesus, and some we wait for Cain. So I'll hang upon this altar, and I'll hoist my axe again, and I'll take the one who finds me back to where it all began, back when Jesus was the honeymoon, and Cain was just a man, and we'll read from pleasant Bibles that are bound in blood and skin, that Asherah is gathering all her children back again. Clover, good morning. You're here again. Hear me say these same silly words one more time. I'm so happy to see you here. Like, I don't know. I know you. I know you and I like you, and so it means a lot to me that you keep showing up. So that language is English. That song was called Last Year's Man. It's a Leonard Cohen song. I've modified it ever so slightly, but it is a song about the Babylonian exile, right? It's a song about trauma making us what we are. And that's something I try to remind myself of. Also, it has an Ouroboros in it, so I put it in the liturgy, just because. It's not mourning for you in Australia, but it is your birthday. Well, happy birthday. Something said. Isabel, I'm glad you watched that film. I'm glad you're here now. Allahu Akbar. Absolutely. What are you? What are you? I don't know what I am. I have no clue what I am. That's for you to tell me. Baruch atah Yahweh, Eloheinu melech haolam, shelo ashani isha. I repeat the name of Yahweh Eloheinu, who did not make me a woman. I did. Baruch atah Asherah, Anat malecha ha'olam, asher yitzaret ha'adam b'chachama uvara ve'or. I repeat the name of Asherah Anat, who made me with many openings and cavities. Yes, I am Jewish, but it's a particular flavor of Judaism, where I have false idols on my windowsill of bosomed goddesses. I try to pay attention to the Judaism that came before Judaism, right? To the Canaanitic polytheistic traditions. Orifices. Yeah, so, Clover, that prayer it's an Orthodox prayer. It's said after you use the bathroom by Orthodox Jewish men. And I've modified it, right? Like, I've turned it into a trans prayer. I've turned it into prayer to Asherah, even though the actual liturgy is Baruch atah Adonai, right? Praise are you, Lord our God, King of the universe. But yeah, thanks for the holes, God. Precisely. Like, it's pretty remarkable. So, and the other prayers is also, like, part of Orthodox daily practice, right? Men say, thanks, Yahweh, for not making me a woman. That's actually the translation. It's not like, thanks for making me a man. It's not gender affirming. It's gender denying, right? Or it's reinforcing the patriarchy, right? It says, like, hey, thanks for not making me that lesser sex. But I can say that rather unapologetically and unironically. Not that Yahweh made me, but, like, if anyone made me a woman, it was me. So, can you ask a question? Absolutely. Make it a thoughtful one. Why do some Jewish people say that after using the bathroom? I'm not entirely sure. You could ask an Orthodox rabbi why that prayer is said, the history of it. I'm appropriating from my own tradition. I don't actually know the full context of that prayer, other than that I knew that I could reinterpret it for my own purposes, which, like, maybe is not the best, but I connect to my traditions as best I can. What is being discussed now? Silly prayers in Hebrew. Silly gendered prayers. No, I'm not Christian. We're talking about holes in gods and gender. Yes, Clover knows. Holes in God and gender. Yeah, so I use the words Asherah and I use the words Yahweh rather than Adonai because I like to connect back to the oldest tradition that we have record of, right? So this is a 3,000-year-old pottery shard that talks about Yahweh and Asherah. So this is before this artifact came around, before monotheism came around. So I do things with these prayers. I try to reinterpret them for the context that I'm in. And maybe they land and maybe they don't. But it's nice to have a little bit of ritual in my life. And I'm glad I get to share it with you all. Have I made up my own religion then if I'm taking parts? Perhaps. It's difficult to say. You're not Christian or anything. You don't believe in all. Especially our dear Mother Earth who came out first. Yeah. There's certainly a creative element to this. It's also, like, I've been steeped in Judaism for my entire life, right? My grandparents were Holocaust survivors, right? Like, the trauma is real. The religious trauma is real. And I believe that the tradition creates the trauma. So, I don't know. Truly, honestly, I do not know what it is that I'm doing every morning, right? Like, I do this because I feel like it's important, and I hope that the rest of you feel like it's important too. I mean, obviously you feel like it's important enough to be here. But what it means is still evolving. And that's okay. So, now I'm going to sing you a prayer in Sanskrit. And this is a little song that I learned at the Shivananda Yoga Center in the mountains of New York. And it's a prayer that's said before pranayama breathing practice. And I found that practice very valuable to me when I was early in my transition and my abdominal muscles were moving around and changing. I needed to relearn how to breathe. And so I learned this prayer and I learned this practice. And I'd like to share a little bit of it with you today. It goes like this. Gajananam Bhudaganati Sevitam Kapita Jambupala Sarabakshitam Umasutam Sakavinasakarnam Mahamatim Divya Mayuravahanam Rudasyasinam Sarasananatam Guham Sadanam Saranam Prapadye Yakuhandutu Sarahadavala Yasupravasvarita Yabhinavaranta Mandita Kara Yasvita Padmasana Yabrahmachuta Sankara Pratrapi Devasada Pujita Samampatu Saraswati Bhagavati Nihesa Jadyapaha Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Murtaye Nisparanchaya Santaya Shi Shivanandaya Te Namaha Shi Vishnudevanandaya Te Namaha Om Sarva Mangla Manglaye Shive Savarta Sadike Saranye Triambake Gauri, Narayani Namostate, Narayani Namostate, Om. Yes, Allison, I'm saying actual words. They're just in a different language. They're in Sanskrit. And the last verse can be translated as, I repeat the name of the Divine Mother Narayani, who brings auspiciousness to those who repeat her name. The goddess tradition is very old, and the Abrahamic faiths abandoned it, basically, but that doesn't mean it's not around. And as much as possible, I try to reincorporate little references to the various goddesses into what I do, as a reminder that our model of reality, our model of divine, what we think the universe is, ought to reflect what we are, right? And our species has 2 genders, maybe more. Chayambakam yajamahe Sugandim pushche vardhanam Orva Rukami bhavandanan Mrityar Mukshiyam amritatom Trayambakam yajamahe Sugandim pushche vardhanam Orva Rukami bhavandanan Mrityar Mukshiyam amritatom Sarvesham svastir bhavatu sarvesham shantir bhavatu sarvesham purnam bhavatu sarvesham mangalam bhavatu sarve bhavantu sukhina sarve santu niramaya sarve vajrani pashantu makashid dukhabhave asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityurmam mritam gamaya om purnamadam purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate om shanti 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 Om, peace, peace, peace. Om. That outer world is full. This inner world is also full. The infinite out there is reflected by the infinite in here. From fullness comes fullness. Taking fullness from fullness, fullness remains like a serpent that eats its tail but is not consumed, like a bush that burns but is not consumed. Is this a Jewish thing? Maybe. Maybe it's a Hindu thing. I don't know what traditions I am. I don't know what gender I am. I'm just a human. Don't worry too much about it. Soleil. There's a bunch of interesting comments in here. Do I believe in karma? You asked that a bunch. Karma is a metaphor for balance, right? Like, we can look at Western scientific tradition, right? And you ask most physicists, they will insist that the universe has a kind of symmetry that is occasionally broken at places, right? So, like, if we interpret karma to mean symmetry, then sure, of course, symmetry exists in the world. Do I believe in a kind of, like, ethical recompensation for the actions that we do? No. I don't think our morality is anything other than a human construct. But certainly the idea of karma is valuable, because there is symmetry in the world, there is balance in the world. And when bad things happen, you can remind yourselves that they will be balanced by good things. And when good things happen, you can remind yourself they'll be balanced by bad things. And the good and the bad, they're both just projections of your mind, right? They're judgments that you place on your experiences, and they're not actually real, right? None of those things are real. The only thing that's real is the matter in motion. Of course, it's all real. I can contradict myself. It's okay. I must remind you of the divine feminine in Hashem and encourage you to leave Ashra behind. You are theologically sophisticated and unfortunately too orthodox for me. But I respect your beliefs and that you hold them resolutely. And I have a little bit of jealousy that you can bind yourself to that culture unapologetically. I wish I could. Of course I remember you. You're thoughtful. You challenge me in important ways. Beatrice is unwell. Today is Beatrice's final day. He can no longer stand. He can no longer eat. And he is hanging from a leaf on my little altar space over there where he's been living. And since he cannot eat, he's going to die very soon. I'll make one more film about him. Thank you. I'm glad you like my hair. No, you cannot see my hairline. I mean, to the extent that you can see it, I hide it as much as possible. You know what's something I'm fairly insecure about? Male patterns. I've got some male patterns that I don't like. But I don't dislike them so far that I won't admit that I have them. Beatrice will rise as another butterfly. Yeah, basically. The butterfly lineage continues even though Beatrice as an individual does not. Right? Beatrice has always been part of this tree. And will continue to be so after he's gone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Prayers. So now I'm going to do a couple more prayers and then breakfast. I've been moving through fast, but that's appropriate. I've wanted to streamline this. So we're going to say Arati, and then we're going to say Kaddish. So Arati in Sanskrit means flame or light. Here we have our little altar flame. Then the goats. Yes, Sarah. Exactly. Then I have to go move my goats. And it's really wet out today. They are going to be grumpy and cold and hungry. But it'll be all right. We're going to do the work because their lives depend on it. So Arati means flame in Sanskrit. And Kaddish means holy in Hebrew. And those are two words that I like to hold on my lips as frequently as I can. Why I say them often. So, Arati, the way that this prayer works, this is the closing prayer in the Shivananda liturgy. And it's said after kirtan, after meditation and chanting with the group. So I do it at the end. And Arati is just repetition of various god names. Right, so as I go down this list, Vina Vinayaka, Vignesha, Ganesha, Subramanya, Venugopala, right, all of these different god names. First one is Ganesh, right, here's Ganesh, this little elephant-headed god. I'll put him here. Oh, you can't see. Like that, there's Ganesh. Make this further away so you can see the things. So it goes. Alright, that's as good as we're going to get today. Oh, now it's all off. I don't like that. Camera. Futzing with cameras. I'm special. You love me for my uniqueness. Thank you. Do I believe in the Buddha? I think that the Buddha was a very important teacher. Believe it? What does it mean for me to believe in anything? What does it mean for me to identify as anything? Like, I'm just matter in motion, right? What you see in this present moment is all that I am. My recent post really got to me. Keeping you in my prayers. My post about addiction. I'm glad that it had some impact. That's why I posted it publicly. Or I posted it publicly because it's a way of holding myself accountable. If I say to 12,000 people on TikTok, hey, did you know I have a marijuana addiction? Then it's real. Then I have to do something about it. But I'm not that ashamed of it. If I was that ashamed of it, I wouldn't be public about it. What do I think is in the afterlife after we die? It's my favorite question when I get asked that on this stream. That's why I'm here, is to answer that question, right? There's a tree. Here's the tree. Tree of life. This is a tree that is 3.8 billion years old. This is the oldest living pattern that we know of. And it's artificial, right? Some scientists made this graph not too long ago. A few years ago, they made this graph, and I downloaded it off the internet. But the graph says something that's real, right? Like, we are all connected in a pattern that resembles this pattern. 3.8 billion years ago, all of us descended from a common ancestor that was alive then, named Luca, the last universal common ancestor. And so this tree has been growing a living pattern that has been growing unbroken for 4 billion years. And we're part of that pattern. We can't help but be part of that pattern. We've always been part of that pattern. And when we die, that pattern will still be around, even if we're gone, even if aspects of our personality or our physical form dissolve into the rest of the world, that pattern still persists, and I try to identify with that pattern. What I am is all of life. I am a tiny part of the tree of life. And when I die, the patterns that make me will continue to be in whatever form that they can be, right? I'm on here every day. I'm recording myself every day as a kind of immortality, right? This pattern that is me is going into you in some tiny way, right? I repeat these words every day, and some of them you'll remember, and some of them will have some tiny impact on who you are, or how you see the world, right? And that's me, right? That's my impact, that's my effect. And I don't think we're anything but that, right? All we are is these patterns. Life is patterns that are particularly good at patterning. Exactly, Clever. We've had this conversation before. So, as best as I can, I try not to identify with the patterns of me that are ephemeral, right? The ones that I can't hold on to, the ones that are isolated to this tiny physical form, right? That's not my deepest, truest self. My deepest, truest self is what will stick around. The self is what remains the same when all else changes. And when my body decays, some self will remain, but it won't resemble Teresa, right? It won't look like me or act like me. But nonetheless, some of my patterns will have made their way into the living patterns of others, and so I will still be around in that form. And I think that's the case for all living things, right? Beatrice is going to die today, but I've made some films about them. I will continue to make films about them, and their patterns are just like those patterns in other monarchs, and they will be preserved in electric impulses that can dance on your phone. Right? Life continues on, and it changes forms, always. And that's what we have to learn. That's what we have to appreciate. Is that, right? That constant transformation of living energy into other kinds of living energy, and not get too attached to any particular kind, because it's going to go away. I don't know. That's what I think. Perhaps I could say it more articulately, right? But I'm live. I'm making things up off the top of my head, and I'm trying to talk to, 46 people at once, and some of you are listening, and some of you are not, and some of you have been here before and heard me said these things before, and some of you want to hurt me. And so it's a little complicated to communicate in this mode. I never know what I am communicating, let alone have clarity inside my own mind. Just a human. Just a human. With flaws just like all the rest of you. I hope you have a beautiful day too. Is Ashra a literal existing deity to you, or is she more of a concept or idea? She's a concept. She's an idea, right? There are no literal existing deities to me. The only thing that exists is what exists in this physical world. Like Ashra exists insofar as there's this statue of her in my hands right now, right? The divine feminine exists because I think if we're going to deify things in the world, then femininity is a thing that's worth deifying. But no, she's not a creator goddess, right? She's not some force out in the universe somewhere that decided to make me Teresa, right? She's a human construct. She's a social construct. Have you heard this term? Gender is a social construct. God is a social construct too. That doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean it's not powerful, or that it shouldn't be understood or respected or worshipped even. But we should understand that it is a social construct, right? It's a thing that humans made. It emerged out of us. Let's say Arati. It's enough philosophizing. Do I think that speaking to my father might help me overcome my addiction? Absolutely I do. But he's also very mean. So speaking to him is challenging. Arati means flame in Sanskrit. And for those of you who ask, as I'm saying this liturgy, please remind them that it is Sanskrit. I'd appreciate that, because I guarantee you someone's going to ask. Tell them it's Sanskrit. Jaya Jaya Rati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Rati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Rati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Rati Venkantaramana Venkantaramana Sankataharana Sitarama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Rati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Rati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Rati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Rati Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimutri Avatara Jaya Jaya Rati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Rati Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Rati Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Guravi Jaya Jaya Rati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Rati Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Rati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Rati Ayapa Samine Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Rati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Rati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jaya Rati Venugopala. I love attention too, Clover. Particularly attention from people who know a thing or two about me and still respect me. Natatra suyobati natandrakaratam nema vidyobati kutoya magni tvameva bantam banti sarvam tasya basya samidam vivanti om yange kayamune kaiva govari saraswati narmade sudika verihiya namastitam namo namaha. Neither the sun shines there, nor the moon, the stars, nor lightning. So from where does this light come? By its light, all else is lit. Tvameva mata trapita tvameva Tvameva bandisha saka tvameva Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva Tvameva sarvam mama diva diva Kayena vacha manasendriyarva Buddhyatmanava prakrite sabhavad Karomi adyad mangalam parasmahi Narayana iti sarmar payami Sarvadharmam pravichaya mamikam sarvanam braja Aham sva sarva papayo mokshaya mima sucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you, to all of you. Thank you all for being here with me today, for taking part in this little ritual. It helps me feel connected to the world, and to you, and to myself. Saying words together. Shared attention is important, you know? It's very important. So we have one more prayer. One more prayer. It's called Kaddish. And the word Kaddish is very interesting. I've been reading a little bit about the etymology of the word. It comes from a Semitic root. 3 consonants in English, QDS, Kaddish, 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 Kadosh, Kadesh. It's been pronounced with any number of vowels over the last 4,000 years or so. There are many cities on the eastern Mediterranean coast that were named Kaddish. And there's a goddess named Kaddish. You can see her here, right? She's riding a lion, she carries snakes, and holds flowers. She arouses the gods to her left and right. Kadosh in Hebrew means holy. Right? There's a famous passage in the book of Isaiah where Isaiah is seeing the destruction of his city, the city of Jerusalem. He's at the throne of God, and there are angels covering God so that God cannot be seen, and they're chanting Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And I think it's interesting that another Hebrew word with the same root, Kaddisha, is prostitute. Kaddisha. So holiness and prostitution, they're tied up in the language, in the etymology, and I just think that's very interesting. Very interesting. These days, Kaddish is most commonly associated with grief, right? The mourner's Kaddish is the most commonly recited Kaddish. And so that's the Kaddish that we're going to say today. That's the prayer that we're going to say today. The holy words that we're going to repeat together today are called Kaddish, and they're a prayer of mourning. So if there's anything that you are mourning, anyone that you are grieving, feel free to put their names in the chat to remind the rest of us that are here that this is grief that we can share. And so we'll say these words together, and we'll think about those who came before us. All of those who came before us. Everything that died. Every being, every one who's died in the last 3.8 billion years and suffered. We say Kaddish for all of them to remind ourselves that we are all part of the same tree. And that all suffering is life suffering. And all life suffers. And it's okay. It's acceptable. We don't have to hide from it or run from it. We can just be here together. Yitkadal vitkadash shemei rabbah. Biyama divrachute viamlich mal chute. B'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayed kol bei Yisrael. B'agala v'isman kari v'imru. Amin. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach li'alam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'itba'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh. V'itadar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudisha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'dechem atad yamiran v'yama v'imru. Amin. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'imru. Amin. Oseh shalom v'imramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oh, say shalom bimramav, oh, say shalom aleinu, v'alechol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Amen. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. Would you like to stick around for breakfast? I've got half an hour left before I have to go. It's roughly the amount of time it takes to eat food. You're so welcome, child. That was Hebrew. Calend? Hebrew, yeah. So that prayer was Kaddish. It's a funny thing. TikTok live streams. Like, I give explanations, but do you know that half of the audience refreshes every 30 seconds, right? I can say something and a minute later, half of you will not have heard it. And it's nerve-wracking. It's so nerve-wracking. Because the other half of you hear me repeat myself over and over and over again. It's a very strange platform to be doing this on. But yes, the language is in Hebrew. The prayer was called Kaddish, and the word Kaddish is older than the Hebrew language, but it's a good word. I'm glad you like my videos. I haven't been on my Your For You page in a month. Where have I been? I've been right here, but unfortunately my image is subject to the whims of the algorithm, and the algorithm did not want to show me to you. And so it goes. Similar to signs on a door that no one reads. Yeah. Alright, so let's have some breakfast. What makes you sad? That half the people here weren't here 30 seconds ago? It kind of makes me sad, but it's also like it's what I've signed up for. If I want an audience, this is the kind of audience that I can get right now. So here I am. Here's an Ouroboros. Here's me in a screen, in a screen, in a screen, with a serpent that eats its tail, that eats its tail, that eats its tail, and it goes on and on and on and on and on.